I'm Harlan Noddle. I was born right here in Omaha on August 3rd, 1936. I don't remember that event. However, I have reason to believe that I was born in an apartment house at 2116 North 16th Street called the La Grata Court, which I believe still exists, and that my father owned at that point in time. However, when we were when I was very young, we moved into our first home, which was in Dundee at 5816 Webster Street. Seemed like a big house in those days. I've been back to look at it since, and today it seems very small by our standards. It's interesting that 59th and Webster, really Georges Boulevard, was about the edge of the city at that point in time. There were really, other than Fairacres, there were no homes west of where we lived. There was a big lake down there called George's Lake where we used to hang out when we were kids. At any rate, I have born and continued and lived in Omaha up until the present time. I have two siblings. I have a brother, Harlan, who was born in 1940, and a brother, Jeff, who was born in 1946. We belong to Bethel Synagogue on 49th Street. Virtually all of my growing up period, I was bar mitzvahed there, obviously when I was 13 years old. I was educated at Harrison School, which in the days that I went there was only kindergarten through 4th grade, and it's located at about just off of 52nd and Hamilton. That school is still there today. It's a full K through 8 school, I believe. We had to leave there when we were in the 4th grade and go then to Dundee School, where I completed my undergraduate education. Then I spent 4 years from 1950, let me see if I can do this, 1950 to 1954 at Central High School, which is where virtually all of the Jewish kids went in those days. Even though there were a couple of suburban schools in Omaha, West Side had no high school in their system, so really all the Jewish kids basically went to Central High School. Central was a very good school then and continues to be a good school now. When I graduated in 1954, I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln and stayed there for 4 years and graduated in 1958 with a bachelor's degree in economics. Had no idea what I wanted to do at that point in time, but it didn't make any difference because those were the days when everybody went into the service. I graduated college, as I said, in 1958 with a commission as a second lieutenant in the Army. And about 6 months after graduation, I was called to active duty for 2 years with the Army Security Agency. I was stationed in just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, for a portion of that time, about 7 or 8 months, and the balance of the time I traveled out of Mineral Wells, Texas, doing what in those days was mostly classified work, intelligence work, although a lot of it's been declassified today. I came back after my 2 years of service, still not really knowing what I wanted to do. I was contacted by a gentleman who's still here in Omaha, Bucky Greenberg, who at that point in time had an insurance agency located in the Aquila Court downtown, and went to work selling insurance for him. That lasted about 6 months, and during that period of time I became acquainted with Nick Newman, who was no longer living, who was then the president of Hinky Dinky Food Stores. we eventually made an arrangement, and I went to work there in 1961. I got out of the Army, went to work there in 1961. Around that period of time, a couple things happened. My father passed away at what now would be very young age, 61, when he died. And after that, I met my wife, Nancy Farber, who had just moved back to Omaha from Chicago. And we got married, boy, I better do this one good. We got married in 1965. Nancy had a son, Jay, who was 7 years old when we got married. And so we have a son who now is, Jay is 44. And our daughter, Susie, is 30, will be 36 this summer. Two wonderful kids, truly the light of my life. Notwithstanding my grandkids, who Jay and Kim have 3 grandkids, 3 children, who both Nancy and I just adore. So we've been very blessed with our children. We're a very close family. Susie got married 2.5 years ago to a lawyer in New York. She now lives in New York and works for our company as we do some work in the Northeast, which she handles. I need to go back now back to my hinky-dinky days. I stayed there in various of their companies until 1971, when I left and started Noddle Development Company. We are in the shopping center and office building development business. We develop, own, and operate properties. Currently, I believe we're in about 17 states, pretty much all over the country. We've been very fortunate in our business. We have a nice little business. I have a partner, Joe Kirschenbaum, who's also a lifelong Omahan. He has a son in the business. I have a daughter in the business. And my son Jay started and has what today is the largest commercial real estate brokerage firm in the state. And they have offices in Des Moines and Las Vegas and several places around the country. We do a lot of work together.
While you were down at the University of Nebraska, did you belong to a fraternity?
Oh, sure. ZBT, Zeta Beta Tau, 1345 R Street. That house is still standing. The fraternity is no longer there. There were 2 Jewish fraternities and 1 Jewish sorority. Sigma Alpha Mu was the other Jewish fraternity, and SDT was the Jewish sorority. Yes, so fraternity life was good. Made some lifelong acquaintances at the fraternity house.
Who were some of the people that you were involved with at ZBT?
Well, who recently passed away, Howard Van, was in that fraternity. Interestingly enough, the first contact I had with the death of a young person was Benny Belmont, who was a fraternity brother of ours, who died when he was about 22 years old in the Army, just after he graduated college. Jerry Hoberman, who was in the fraternity and who is, we are lifelong friends. So you made a lot of attachments there that stayed with you for a long period of time. But those were good days.
Let's go back another step. Let me hear a little about your relationship with your 2 brothers growing up.
Well, my little brother is 10 years younger than I am. And he was 16 when my father passed away, so I kind of got thrown into being sort of more of a father to him than a brother. Probably did some things that I'd like to take back when he was younger, but he wasn't the world's greatest student when he was in college, and his mother and I used to string him out pretty good over that. My brother Alan, who is 4 years younger than I am, is a lot more disciplined than Jeff was. We are a very close family, including my brothers. Interestingly enough, my brother Alan just moved back to Omaha after living 4 years in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, as an executive with a worldwide food chain. He was the first non-Dutch person on their executive board. And my little brother runs a Fortune 5 as the chairman and CEO of the largest food wholesaler in the country, a Fortune 500 company, and he lives in Minneapolis. So my mother is still living. She's 91 and has been at the Bloomington home for about the last almost 2 years.
Harlan, can you tell me some background of your parents, where they were born, where they came from?
Sure. My father was born in Lithuania and came to this country in the early 20s, well before it became uncomfortable for Jews living in Eastern Europe. He came here when he was about 19 or 20 years old, and I think some relative, I don't know that much. I know he came from Lithuania, and my brother's been back to Lithuania, and we've tried to find through the registry some information, but we have not much information beyond my father about his family, although several of them did come to the States. But anyway, my father came here very early on, in the early 20s. My mother was born here, and her parents came from Russia in the, I would say in the probably early 30s. And they lived, my grandparents lived at the Logan Fontenelle homes, which was right off of 24th Street, 24th and Hamilton, in that area. And I have memories of every Sunday we'd go down there and spend some time with the grandparents in their little place. My grandfather was a streetcar conductor, and he got sick. He had tuberculosis and couldn't work in the later days of his life. And he passed away when I was fairly young. And my grandmother, Esther, probably lived till she was close to 80 and died while I was in the service. So.
You have fond memories of your grandparents?
Yeah, I do. I particularly my grandmother, Esther, because I spent so much more time with her. My grandfather, I was pretty young when he died. But my grandmother, I have very fond memories. I've even got I think they're in the box here. There's a picture of her in there. So, yeah, I do have fond memories of that.
Do you recall what your father did when he first came to this country?
He was in Council Bluffs when he first came here, and he got involved in a little grocery store over in Council Bluffs. And then he moved to Omaha, had a grocery store in Omaha, and then had a liquor store. The building still exists at 24th and Jones, right one block north of 24th and Leavenworth. It was a building that was, my dad had a liquor store, and next door was a grocery store that was owned by the Coopers, Sam and David Cooper. Sam Cooper's a judge here, and David is still around. But they were in the same building, and then my father, toward the end of his life, had begun buying some real estate and owned a couple small apartment buildings. One near the liquor store, and then the one where I was born on North 16th Street.
Did your father leave a lot of information that kind of guided you in life?
Well, you know, we're all a product of where we've been and what we are, you know, genetically and emotionally and the way we were brought up. And, I mean, you have to look back. I mean, what my brothers and I have been able to do is very humbling, and you have to give a lot of credit to your upbringing and your genetics for that. High sense of ethics. Our company has an immaculate reputation. We think that's our most valuable asset. And did that come from the instant of conception, or because that's the way you were raised? Probably a combination of all those things. So, yeah, I think they play a big part of that.
What are some of the memories you have of being at Central High?
Being put in a trash can, head down, They used to call it canning you when you were a freshman. If you could get through the first 2 weeks of school without being head first in a trash can, you were some kind of a miracle man. I think Central was a good school. I don't think I was ever a terribly serious student, even Central, or I don't know whether I was any different than anybody else, but I didn't win all the academic awards. But at Central, I made some very good friendships. I think, interestingly enough, a lot of how I feel about racial diversity came from my days at Central High. It was really my first exposure to black people. I think Central, if I remember correctly, was about a third black and/or minorities, and we just were together. We had friends who were black, and we went to parties and did stuff together. And I am terribly liberal when it comes to those things today, and probably that was founded from my time at Central. I mean, I don't believe that I have an ounce of prejudice or a bone of prejudice in my whole body, and I think that probably was seeded there at Central High School. So that's another memory I have of Central.
How about a little more about what you did in the service?
Well, a lot of it's been declassified now. For years, it was something that you couldn't really talk about. The Army Security Agency, the National Security Agency is at Fort Meade, Maryland, and it is the electronic and communications intelligence arm. And under it were three services: the Army Security Agency, the Naval Security Group, and the AFSS, which was the Air Force Security Service. And we were involved primarily in communication intercept work, code breaking, and some of those types of things. I started out at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, which was where the Army Security Agency school was, and that's where we were schooled. And then I was with one of the field operating units in Texas and traveled out of there. So the Army was a very good experience for me. It was probably when I finally began to mature was when I was in the Army. As an officer, you had, for the first time, some responsibility and accountability that probably I hadn't had before in my life. So it was a good experience. I have often thought we should have mandatory military service in this country. I think it's something that's truly lacking. But
other than responsibility, you didn't learn anything you could bring into civilian life, though, did you?
Well, I mean, all of those things are things you can bring into civilian life. Accountability, responsibility. I think they don't directly connect, but I think that like I said before, you're a product of everything you experience in your life, and if you can glean the good stuff of that and bring it along with you as you go, you're probably going to be a better person for it.
I'd like to hear a little more about your work with Hinky Dinky.
I started out I was actually working for a fellow who passed away here about a year ago, Chuck Monacy, a longtime Omahan, who had moved to Phoenix. But I was in the maintenance department, so when the freezer went out in the store and the TV dinners started to get soupy, they called me and I would send somebody out to fix that. And I went from there into store planning, which was layouts and remodels of new stores, and became director of store planning after a few years. And then they had a real estate person who left, and at that point they decided to combine the construction, store planning, and real estate into one department. And they asked me to head that, and that's probably where I began to pique my interest in real estate, which of course became my whole life in later years. So anyway, I was the director of real estate and store planning, became an officer of the corporation in 1968. Hinky Dinky was leasing some food markets in big discount stores, around the country, and they spun that off and set up a separate division that was called Supermarkets Interstate. And everybody either stayed with Hinky Dinky or went over to Supermarkets Interstate. I went to Supermarkets Interstate. As a group vice president, I was responsible for all the stores west of the Mississippi River. I can't remember how many there were, probably 25 or 30 big volume, big grocery stores, strung out all over the country. Did a lot of traveling. I think I remember the last year I was there. I have 2 kids that I'm raising. I was away from home like 135 nights. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but I do remember that. During the time that I was handling their real estate, I became acquainted with a fellow from Indianapolis named Herb Simon, who wound up today. They're the largest. Simon Property Group is the largest owner of commercial property, probably in the world. And they came out to see me in the summer of 1971 and said they were going into malls, and they had 2 strip center deals in this part of the world they were working on, and would I be interested in leaving, and they'd give me an interest in those 2 properties and pay all my expenses while we got started. And so that's how I got in the business.
What are some of the highlights of your business today? Accomplishments that you've made?
Well, I mean, you know, probably the most high-profile deal we've ever done was One Pacific Place. And that, if you can believe it, it was 20 years ago that we started working on that, which was the old Renstrom farm where they trained racehorses. And we wanted to do a mixed-use development down there. And the neighbors ganged up on us from all sides. It went on we were in court with the neighbors for 2.5 years. It was a real battle. It really polarized the whole western part of the city. Everybody had an idea as to whether it should be or shouldn't be. But we were eventually able to get it through. And today it's probably the premier mixed-use development in the city. We did this First National Business Park as one of our developments that we're particularly proud of. We own a couple of the office buildings out here. And we just kind of do our thing, come to work every morning and see what happens.
Do you do a lot of traveling with your business?
Yes. Yeah.
I want to hear something about your family right now. Your 2 children, your wife, some of the things, some of the highlights of your life, things you've done as a family.
Well, we do a ton of stuff as a family. I mean, as I said before, we're a very close family. My kids are very close to both my kids. I would guess I speak with both of them virtually every day. Jay and I do a lot of work together. I should say Jay's company and our company do a lot of work together. Susie and I do a lot of work together because she handles all our stuff up in the Northeast. And I would say that the single most significant thing in my life is my family, period. Been truly blessed to have 2 great kids and a great wife and great grandkids, and we do a lot of stuff. We had everybody in Hawaii over this last December, and there were at one point in time, I think, 30 of us. That would have been my brother Jeff, and he has his wife and 2 kids and 1 grandchild. My brother Alan's never been married. My whole crew, which is Jay and Kim and the 3 kids, and Susie and Marvin. Marvin has 2 kids from a previous marriage. We had them out. So we all, and my 2 cousins from Chicago and their families. So it was a group trek. But it was probably one of the best vacations we've ever taken as a family. We were in Maui for a week, and it was terrific. And we do a lot of things together. Like I say, I think that's probably the most significant thing in my life is my family. My wife Nancy, who's adorable, who worked for many years, was in Mary Bernstein in Events Incorporated, but retired about 5 or 6 years ago, and how she ever found the time to work is unbelievable, because she hasn't had any time since she retired. So she's a very busy person, and does a lot of things and covers a lot of ground. We are fortunate enough to be able to have a second home in California, which we probably don't spend as much time as we would like, but we enjoy it very much, and it does provide us with a getaway, particularly when we have a less than cheery winter like we're having this winter. So, but no, the family is a big deal. To me, that's what it's all about.
Now we have to set modesty aside, Harlan. I know you've been very active in this Omaha community, and you've done a lot of wonderful things. I'd like to talk to you about that.
Well, it's not something I usually talk about, but if you want to ask me questions, I'll try and answer them.
When did you get started being active in the Omaha Jewish community?
Well, in the Jewish community, that goes back to, I think Nick Newman had a lot to do with me getting involved in the Jewish community. He was president of the Federation before he died, and there were not, and in those days I was a young person, so we're probably talking 35 years ago, there were not a lot of young people involved in Federation, and Federation was kind of a closed, like a club, and we were able to get some young people in the Federation and involved in the fundraising, the philanthropies, the annual drive, and all that. And I think I've had every philanthropies card in town at one time or another. I still take cards. And in 1975, I was Federation president. I wasn't quite 40 years old. I think I was one of the youngest Federation presidents that they had. And I'm not as active as I used to be, but I currently am helping. The home is undergoing a study, the Blumkin home. They need to do some reevaluating and physical redoing of that facility, so they've asked me to help with that, and I'm involved with that. But I think the Federation we have a great community involvement in the Jewish community here. We have a lot of good young people who are getting involved. So Omaha has a very good Jewish community for its size. One of the top fundraising in the country per capita. But it's a good community, very involved community.
What are some of the things that have been accomplished in the Omaha community during your tenure and beyond?
We built the Jewish Community Center. We built the Blumkin home. We built the Blumkin home addition. We just redid the Jewish Community Center and built the Child Development Center there. There's been a lot of positive things that have gone on. But mostly, I think, have occurred on the campus here since they moved from the old J downtown.
How's it been working with a lot of the people in Omaha?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Who are some of your favorites that you've worked with over the years?
Oh, I don't. Everybody's my favorite. If I start telling you who my favorites were, you might ask me who my non-favorites are, and I don't think we want to reduce that to tape. But no, everybody's fine. If you understand where the other person comes from and what their hot buttons are, it's pretty easy to get along with people.
What is the proudest moment you've had with the Jewish Federation of Omaha, where you felt you were part of the accomplishment?
I would say probably when I was president at the young age that I was, and also I was one of the spearheads of the original Blumkin home. I called on Mrs. B and got her to give enough money to we could name the facility after her. And of course, now that my mother's there, it needs some work simply because of the change in the type of population that's being served there, but it is the premier senior care facility in this part of the world. There's nothing to talk about. The care out there is excellent. So I've always been glad to be a part of that.
I'm going to put you in a little spot now, Harlan. I'd like you to leave a message for your children, for your grandchildren, some thoughts that you might have about what you expect from them and what you contributed to them.
Well, let me tell you something, and that's a good question. My kids already know the answer to that question because I've spent years talking to my kids. We understand each other. They understand my sense of values. They both subscribe to my sense of values. I expect them to be honest, upfront, hardworking, care for other people, generous, philanthropic. We've been over all this. I think my kids know exactly, and that's one reason why I'm so proud of them, because I think that there's a legacy there that's going to go on through the kids, which also is what I think this is all about.
Is there a message you'd like to leave with the Omaha Jewish community?
Volunteer for everything and give more money.
We've touched on everything Jewish so far, Harlan. Can you tell me some of the things you've been involved with the non-Jewish community, with the city of Omaha?
Oh, yeah, like I said, I don't like talking about this stuff, but probably one of the most rewarding things of its kind that I have been fortunate enough to be able to do is I just completed a 3-year term as chairman of Nebraska Health System, which is the largest hospital in the state that was formed by the merger of Clarkson Hospital and University Hospital. And I was fortunate enough to be the chairman for 3 years. It was a tremendous experience. We have a world-class medical center here in Omaha. I think a lot of people don't know the quality of health care that goes on down there. The people are dedicated, professional, and to be able to interact with those people the way I was truly a great experience for me. I'm on the board of the Omaha Symphony, have been for about the last 3 years. They reorganized the board. I think there are 12 or 13 people on the board of the symphony. I enjoy the pops more than I do the symphony, but they know that and I know that, so get along fine with that. I am particularly excited about an opportunity that I'm going to have later this year when I will become the chairman of the University of Nebraska Foundation. The University of Nebraska Foundation has about $1 billion in it now. It's the, I think, 55th largest university foundation in the country. So that's going to be something for me. I had some involvement with the new convention center and arena. I was on the original Metropolitan Omaha Convention Sports and Entertainment Authority board for about 3 years, which led to the decision to build the new convention center and arena. And I do a few other things around, but in my spare time.
You know, I've never said this to anybody, Harlan, that I've interviewed, but I have to say to you that I consider it a real honor being a friend of yours.
Well,
I have that much respect for you.
Well, thank you. It's probably a little more than I deserve, but coming from you, I'll take it. That's very good. Thank you. Okay, this is my grandfather Philip Garfinkel's certificate of naturalization from 1914. As you can see, well, you probably can't see, but he was born in Russia, and this was when he became a U.S. citizen. Happened to find this when we were cleaning out my mother's apartment, so it's a very interesting document and certainly part of our history. This is the 1928 Tech High yearbook where my mother attended high school, and at the top of the page is her picture from the class yearbook. This is a picture of the family as it was. It appears to be taken in about 1942 or 43. This was before my little brother Jeff was born, but that's mother, father, my brother Alan on the right, and myself.
Right.
This is a picture of my father, I'm guessing shortly after he came to this country, in his early 20s and probably before he was married. We don't have a date on this picture, but it appears he's very young in that picture. But anyway, that's what we think that is. This is a picture of mother, father, and myself. I'm guessing I was about, looks like 1.5 to 2 years old. That was taken in the house at 5816 Webster Street in the living room. And I'm guessing it was taken about 1939. This is the house at 5816 Webster. It was in what is now called Dundee, but interesting, if you look in the background, you see that it's all farmland, so that in those days was the edge of the city. I'm not sure about this one. I think it's certainly my father in a car, but I think this was during Golden Spike days. I see the car has Iowa license plates and says 7th Street Grocery on it. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that was the grocery store that he was involved in over in Council Bluffs. So this again may have been just before he and mother were married. This is appears to be my parents' wedding ketubah, 24th of October, 1934. Robert Noddle and Edith Garfinkel were married in St. Louis, so I'm pretty sure that's what that is. This is my parents' marriage certificate, 24th of October, 1934. They were married in St. Louis, which is where my father's sister and brother-in-law lived. Anyway, that's that. This is a picture of my father's family, taken, I assume, before he and mother were married, since she's not there. But if we start at the seated row, from left to right is Bill Greenstein and my father's sister Reva, and Jake Mendelson and my father's sister Bessie, and Hyman Noddle and his wife, also my father's brother, Bess. And in the back row standing is Harry Levitan and Sarah Ann, my father's sister, and my father, and then Bessie and Jake's 2 daughters, Beverly and Rose. This is a picture of Nancy and I that was taken at some event. I'm not 100% sure which, but I would say this picture was probably taken in the early 80s. This is a family picture. Again, I'm guessing it was about 18 years old, 17 years old. Jay before he was married, Susie obviously, and Nancy and I.